Hello, welcome back. Review from what we did before. We talked about the sizes of the drums, 32, 29, 26, 23. And if you have a piccolo, it's a 20. Each drum is a range of a fifth. D is the bottom note, F, B flat, and D. Those are very important. We talked about the types of heads, Remo Renaissance or Evans Strata. We talked about the four tuning systems. We talked about the balanced action or accelerator, same thing. We talked about the clutch, ratchet clutch. We talked about the piston clutch or friction clutch. So we have ratchet clutch and then friction clutch, the one with the pole going through. And then we talked about the ratchetless clutch. Mentioned the beating spot, 1/3 the radius. We talked about the spine of the drum, what to do with the spine of the drum. We talked about the grip, German versus French. French is what we want. We talked about generating how to work on the fingers, playing upside down, eventually moving it to your drum, using your fingers, staying as light as possible. Thumb up, not this way, thumb up. We talked about roll. All rolls should be single stroke rolls. And we talked about keeping your mallets in a plastic bag, unless you're playing them, of course, all the time. Let's talk tuning. To tune the drums, we have, first of all, we'll talk about the tuning gauges first. All of these drums, and most drums today, if you buy a new drum today, they will come with tuning gauges. They're hard to see. Maybe if you guys need to, I can take another video of the actual tuning gauges if you care to see that. But there's a gauge on each one of these drums. And the way this works is the pedal is attached to this gauge by a wire. That wire moves an indicator to tell me what the pitches are. Now, this doesn't exactly tell me what the pitch is. It tells me the location of the pedal. As I move the pedal, it moves the indicator. So on these are there's the pitches that are on here, and I can slide those, and I can set those exactly where I want. So what I'll do is when I show up to a rehearsal, I'll take a pitch pipe or some sort of pitch, and I'll blow a note, and I'll blow it, and then I will tune these using my ear, make sure it's the exact pitch that's on here, and then I will move these sliders to match the pitch. So I'm actually using my ear, then using these to match the pitch, as opposed to the other way around, assuming these are right. I typically have to assume that these are wrong all the time unless I've set them. Because things move, people move them, things change. And so what happens is if you have these, oftentimes your kids are going to rely on these too much and not use their ears. So you have to make sure they're using them as a supplement. That being said, most of the band literature written today assumes you have gauges. Most of the things assume you have gauges. So what does that mean? That means that there are quick tuning changes that maybe a middle schooler can't do. Tuning within a piece of music is difficult to do for them, but tuning a lot within a piece of music is even harder. So there may be a lot of tuning changes. There's a thing called blind tuning changes, in that I have to tune this drum while playing this drum, so I can't actually hit this drum to listen to the pitch. I have to rely on the tuning gauges to make that happen. So the tuning gauges are really useful today, but you have to make sure that your students are using their ear and then using the gauges to help align them. I think about the gauges like the positions on a trombone. All trombonists learn their 7 positions. They put their arm in that position, but then they use their ear to determine if should I pull in or should I push out a little bit? Where should I be to make that pitch happen? They don't just assume, okay, I'm here, that's what that pitch is, because everything changes. And you guys know, those who play pitched instruments, how even within a rehearsal, you may start and one pitch, beginning of rehearsal A440, and by the end you're at A444 or something like that. And so these drums also have to be adjusted to that. And so in the course of a week of a symphony rehearsal, I will keep fine-tuning and adjusting all of these tuning gauges as I play, so that I can rely on them when I get to the concert. Still, of course, using my ears as much as possible. So let's say you do not have tuning gauges, or you just want to tune. Even if you have tuning gauges, if I want to tune drums, I want to use my ears first. So there's a couple of steps, actually a few steps that we want to go through, and this is the exact process to tune timpani. So the first thing is you need to find a pitch source. So there are 3 possible pitch sources. Most professional timpanists use a tuning fork. Okay? To use a tuning fork, you can hear that there's virtually no sound for you. This is ringing. I can hear it when I put it to my ear, but you can't hear it, which is why this is useful in an orchestra or band, because I'm not bothering people by blowing notes on here. So I hit this, and this is tuned to an A, and then I'm going to take it. You can see that the way I have it in my hand here, with the end in my hand, and I'm going to push it against my ear so I can hear the pitch. So now I have the end of it right on my ear, pushing against my ear. I can hear my pitch, all right? Da, that's the pitch we have here. And then I tune the drums to whatever pitch I need based off of that A. So your oral skills comes in handy. So if I have to tune an A and a D, bum, all right, bum, bum, there's my D. Any interval that I need to be able to sing to get those notes to happen. If you don't have a tuning fork, and most students really don't want to mess with this is harder than they maybe want to deal with, you can get a pitch pipe. If you get a pitch pipe, you need to make sure it's a C to C, an F to F pitch pipe. An F to F, not a C to C. What does that mean? Is that the lowest note is an F, and then the highest note is an F, versus the lowest note being a C and the highest note being a C. The reason you want an F to F is it goes lower, it goes that 5th lower than the C to C, and it's closer to the range of the drum. So my lowest note is there, which is closer to where this drum might be. So this is an octave down from this, okay? If you have a C to C, then obviously you're higher and you have to jump more octaves to get the notes to happen. This is really handy. There's a lot of apps now on phones that have tuners on them. Those are also good. The problem with this is that obviously if you're sharing this with the band, then everybody's blowing into it and we're all getting the virus, and that's not good, right? So if everybody either has their own or if they can use that app. I've seen one app that actually sounds and looks exactly like this, and you just push the button and that's exactly how it sounds. And so a lot of students I see using their phones to tune it. But you need to be able to hear the pitch and not just play the drum or bring your phone up to the drum and hear the pitch. And then thirdly, as far as a pitch source, the last place to get the pitch is to get it from another instrument in the ensemble, or a xylophone or Glock on the other side. And what happens is, and this is very common, is that when young Jimmy wants to tune the timpani, somebody bangs a B flat over there, or he walks across the hall, bangs the B flat, walks back, tries to tune the drums. You really don't want to do that. Not only does it take long, but it's not effective. You don't want to have the tuba players blowing notes, because then it becomes a big spectacle. Really, you should make the drummers tune their own drums, and you shouldn't tune them for them. They should make sure that they know how to tune them. So, going back to the steps to tuning. So here's the first step, is to hear the pitch. All right. In this case, we're going to use our A. Okay. So I hear the pitch. Then the next step, step number 2, is to sing the pitch. All right? Da. All right, you have to sing it. You've got to sing it. If you can't sing it, you can't tune it. So you have to sing the pitch. It's really, really, really important. Step 3 is stop singing the pitch. All right, you sing it and then you stop it. All right, so you're not singing anymore, but that pitch is now in your head. Da. I'm going to sing down here. Okay, so the pitch is now in my head. All right, so step number 1, hear the pitch. Step number 2, sing the pitch. Step number 3, stop singing the pitch. Step number 4, 1 stroke on the timpani, timpano, 1 stroke on the drum from beneath the note. Go back to hearing my pitch. From beneath the note, I struck it one time, and the ring of the drum, I could hear it just fine as I got up to the note, okay? So, hitting it one time from beneath the note coming up. You always want to come up to the note, not down to the note. It's like if any of you play guitar, if you have to tune the strings down, or violin, or whatever, if you're tuning the strings down, they're tight, you loosen them to come down to the pitch. Now they're super loose, okay? And so what's going to happen is the moment you play them, they're going to go down even further. So you have to go below the note and then up. You always have to go up to the note. Same thing with the timpani. The head, if I go just down to the note and play it, next time I hit it, it's going to go even lower, okay? So, do that again. Hear the pitch. Sing the pitch. Stop singing the pitch. From beneath the note. When you get to the spot, you check it one time. That was a little flat, so I brought it up. There we go. All right. So that's all you need. 2 times to hit it. Once to come up to get the pitch. Second time to confirm that that's the right pitch. Now, why don't we do this? Because now I'm confused. That's too much information. I've seen too many drummers, and it happens to pros and amateurs alike. This is too much information. Confuses the ears. Now I have no idea where the pitch is. Okay? So we want to, again, boom. Done. Okay? That's all you need to do to tune the pitch. So this is an A. If now I want a D, I'm going to take the pitch from this A. Dum, bum, perfect fourth. And I'm going to do the same thing with this. Okay? So, once you get your perfect fourth, let's say I want to tune this now to an F. Okay? So, I can either use the D, sing up to the F, up a minor third, or I can use my A and sing up to the F, or down a third and then up the octave. I don't want to use the D, because this note is based off of this note. So if this note's wrong, this note's going to be super wrong. Okay? So what I want to do is go back to my first pitch, which is this, or I could even go back to the original source, my A, and I like to go down. 3 blind mice, there's my F. So now I have my F, okay? So from that A, that one pitch, I've tuned my A, my D, and my F. Okay, and you can do any of those intervals depending on what you want to do. Typically, I like my timpanists to be able to sing minor seconds, major seconds, major third, minor third, perfect fourth, and tritone. Those are the intervals you need. Maybe a perfect fifth, because obviously perfect fourth, perfect fifth is the same thing. Sixths and sevenths aren't necessary, because you can just sing seconds and then move it down and up and down an octave. But to be able to sing those intervals is really important to be able to tune the drums. All right, now that I have them set, I can then move my gauges to line them all up, okay, if I want to. So that's where we tune our drums. So again, hear the pitch, sing the pitch, stop singing the pitch. From beneath the note, one strike, gliss up to the note, check it with one strike. All right, if it's bad, do that whole process over again. Go back to the original pitch, come up to it. Okay, so it's really, really important to keep it simple. The more information, the longer that takes, the more chance you have to not tune it correctly. So you want to make sure you're doing it as quickly as possible to get the right intonation. That's good for tuning. We're good. Speaking of tuning, while I'm thinking about it, we're not going to talk about changing heads on timpani. It's the same as changing it on the other drums, but it's just a longer, more complicated process because you're doing it with a perfect pitch. But if you think about this drum, each one of these lugs, I have to tune to the correct pitch. And so if I have one lug that's out of tune, is the camera? I want to make sure it's set right. Yeah, we're good. If one of the lugs is out of tune with the other lugs, the drum's going to be out of tune. So I need to make sure that each one of these lugs I've adjusted properly so it's in tune. So if I have to move this, which we have to move these quite often, if I grab by the rim, right, if I'm grabbing it by the rim, picking it up and moving it, it's equivalent to picking up your violin by its strings. Right? So I've picked it up exactly where I need to tune the instrument, and now I've probably knocked it out of tune. So if you're going to move the instrument, you want to grab it from the struts underneath, these big long poles. This is a great place to grab it. It's a little bit low, sometimes it hurts your back a little bit, but you can't grab it by the rim. You never want to move a timpani or timpano by the rim. You want to get down here and grab it. Our drums over at Alf's have a third wheel, which makes it easier to move, so that makes that whole process easier, but you never want to grab it by the rim because you'll knock it out of tune, especially if it's low in the range. All right, I want to talk about sticking. If you turn to page 180 in your book, 180, example 5C, there's a short excerpt. This is the tuning excerpt. I don't really care about the tuning, but I want to look at the first 8 bars of this. I want to talk about the sticking that we have in this. When you play timpani, it's just like playing marimba. You want to alternate as much as possible. All right. So when we played malice, we talked about alternating as much as we can, and then we talked about picking sticking that works going right or going left. All right. So it's the same thing on this, right? So the sticking we might use on snare drum might be quite a bit different than on this, because on snare drum you're not going right or left, you're staying in one spot. So we talked about that straight sticking. This, we don't really adhere to that, other than the fact that we want to alternate as much as possible. So if you look at the first 2 bars here, you'll notice that I'm alternating everything. Right, left, left, right. Okay, I'm playing on that top drum, that top D drum, and I'm assuming you all have your books, but if you don't, the excerpt, the first 2 bars is this. All right, so I alternated everything. So if we did our straight sticking, you would have played that right, left, right. All right, we talked about that. But on timpani, you want to alternate as much as you can. So I'm going to go ahead and go right, left, right. Now the next bar is pretty obvious: right, left. But you'll notice, because the A is on the left side, obviously we're going to play it with our left hand. Now going forward, if we go to bar 7, notice at bar 7, instead of right, left, it's left, right. And the reason we have left, right is that on bar 8, on the downbeat, we have to go to the left. We have to go to the A drum. So to keep myself from having to have any double sticking anywhere, so to make sure that I'm alternating as much as possible, we're going to play that left, right, left. Okay? So instead of right, left, crossing my hands, whatever we're doing, getting to the right, we do left, right, left. Okay? So you'll notice this. So the sticking is really important on this instrument. If we had the playing test, the etude that you would have done, you would have tuned an A and a D, and then you would have had to play with the correct sticking going from one drum to the next. So the sticking on this instrument is very important. Most of the time when I'm listening to a student at Solo and Ensemble, which we did a couple weeks ago, if they're having problems with the tune, it's usually because their sticking is not efficient. They're doing a lot of cross stickings, they're doing a lot of doublings that they don't need to do. So alternating is really important all the time. It's really necessary. Good. So while I was talking about that, let's talk about muffling and muting. So if I want, we talked about, when we did the general percussion, we talked about sometimes when you're playing in a band or orchestra and you're playing cymbals or bass drum, you want to think about the length of the note matching the length of the ensemble. Timpani is the same thing. When we want to play a long note, when it says to play a half note, we want to make sure it's ringing as long as possible. Right? Is the full length of the notes. 1, 2, stop. Okay? We don't want to play a whole note. We don't want to go 1, 2, 3, 4. We want to go 1, 2, 3, 4. If we're playing quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Same thing. And we want to make sure we're emulating what's going on in the ensemble. Sometimes, and it's very common, for the composer to write the wrong duration in the Timpani part, and so you need to listen to what's going on the